the question of coding the push and the pop. Okay, so we haven't decided, and I'm not going to decide for you which way around you're going to do it. But if I've got a pop method in here, let's just have a look at what would be involved in my pop method. Okay, what would be the steps? Well, as I outlined before, you're going to be removing the top item. So logically, you have to have a series of lines. Okay, so in our code, what we said is if you're approaching it this way, bottom up, let's call it, right? If you're approaching it from the bottom up, or if you're approaching it from a top down, that's method 2, approach number 2, that's approach number 1. So if I take this one, the very first step you would have to do is as you bring in your new node, so let's say that you pass your new node in, right? And here, actually I'm thinking about pushing, sorry, not popping. So if I think about pushing, I'm going to pass in my new node, okay? And I'm handwriting it deliberately because it's a thinking process, right? It isn't just a straightforward coding. You need to decide which of the two you're going to go for and what the advantages and disadvantages and how close they stay to this. So the new node needs to be attached to the one below it, but that's already going to be top node. So whatever your top node is, you would simply call set linked, right? And pass in the new node. So that would just drop in there. So that would instantly pop it up and connect it to that. Then, now I'm not thinking this fully through because really there are all kinds of issues and nulls. I'm just giving the basic gist of it and I want you to code this. Surely all I then need to do is set my top node, assign it to my new node. Right, so that's my question to you. Is that the push method basically summed just a couple of lines, or is there anything else? And will that work? To pop it, to pop that code, right, to remove it, what do I need to do? Well, to remove it, because I'm bottom up, that will have to be set to null, that one below it, okay? So how do I get hold of the one of the node below? Right, let's just call it node below. How do I get hold of that to set its link to null, i.e. to disconnect it from that one above it? Right, that's the first thing I'm going to do. So I've got a couple of questions here. How do I get hold of the one directly underneath it if we're all going upwards? So that's a question. You need to look at the node below code. Let me just shift that onto screen, okay? So that's a couple of questions for that method. The alternative method over here for the push method, if you've got a new node, is that the kind of thing you're going to need to do, because we add a new node. For our new node, we link it to the current top one, right? So if I take my new, I call the set linked and I point it to the top. Okay, seems straightforward enough. And then I assign the new node to the top. So it works like that. You've got roughly two lines. Okay, for a push, that looks quite straightforward. Are there any other risks with that code? Let's have a look at the pop method for this whole approach, which is top down, right? So I want to remove the top item. So it gets a little bit trickier here because if I say to my current top node what its linked node is, it's going to go down to the one below it, right? So let's just call this below. So if I were to say I can get hold of the below node, which will be assigned from the top, get the linked node from the top. So that's going to give me the one underneath it, right? Once I get the one underneath it, remember I'm trying to remove the top item. So what do I do with that top item? Do I just set it to null? And then do I set the below item to the top item? What are the issues? What are the risks below here? Over here, it seems reasonably straightforward how you might code it. Over here, you've got a slightly trickier question of how do you access the node below. So I'm going to leave that open for you in coding the push and the pop as we bring this series of questions and issues up to an end.